Hey everyone, welcome to another Bookmore show. You're going to love today's episode. Yesterday, Dean recorded an interview with one of our authors, Joel Johnson. Joel owns an investment company up in the Northeast and has been using 90-minute book style books to attract clients with various different needs, all into his business. It really is a fantastic behind-the-scenes look into his successful marketing campaign and then obviously how it can apply to you. So towards the end of the talk, the conversation turns to referrals, and there's an amazing breakthrough to orchestrate very specific referrals using Joel's book, Forced to Retire. I think that's going to be interesting for anyone that's looking to engage more customers from an existing customer base. As I say, really fantastic episode for anyone considering a book or really for looking at other ways to leverage theirs. So if you're ready to get started on yours, just head over to 90minutebooks.com and hit the Get Started button. In the meantime, grab a coffee, grab a pen, and listen in as Dean and Joel talk about their campaign.
Joel Johnson.
Dean Jackson, how are you?
I am good. I'll tell you what, I am sitting in my evil scheme hatching chair with my evil scheme hatching pad and pen, and I'm ready.
Well, I'm here at the Renaissance in Boca Raton, Florida, just being a man of the people, doing one honest hour of work today, which is talking with you.
Oh, perfect. I love it. So what kind of evil schemes are we going to hatch today?
Well, I don't know. How do we come up with one?
Okay, let's catch up on what's been happening in your before unit, and then we can talk about your after unit too. But maybe bring me up to speed on what's been happening with your book efforts, because I know that's been a really great lead generator for you, and then to maybe talk about how that works, and we can see what we can do to
great, excellent
tweak that.
The books have been great. So I have one sort of big book that I wrote a while back before you and I ever met, and
actually we should probably set the stage for what business you're in, too.
Okay.
Just thinking
so,
it's funny,
great.
yeah, because I know you, and nobody else does. That's right.
Yeah,
so you got to tell people what kind of business you're in.
So I am the majority owner of an investment firm, and we specialize in helping people that are either already retired or getting close to retirement invest in a conservative way so they can basically take income off of what they've saved. And so we're a full-blown investment firm. For those in the business, I'm a registered investment advisor, SEC registered, so we manage, hundreds of millions of dollars. And I have 6 other financial advisors that work for me / with me, and so I'm kind of the rainmaker of the company. I'm in charge of setting the strategic direction of the company, leading the company. We have 25 total employees, including those 6 advisors. And I create and generate all the leads, set the tone of the company, and we market through TV. I have a TV program. I'm on the TV news on a big network affiliate in Connecticut every Sunday morning. I also have a half-hour radio show that we market through, and we do public seminars. So we do direct mail. I'm a strong believer in direct mail. We drop about 25 to 30,000 pieces of direct mail every month to drive people to a public seminar. And then we have a after unit program where we generate constant referrals and introduction through our existing clients. So we just do a ton of direct marketing to feed lots of introductory appointments for prospective clients to those financial advisors that see the people in my during unit. And of course, then we try to hold on to those relationships as long as possible in the after unit.
That's awesome. That's a great summary. Sounds like you got a but there's the thing is you've been studying this process for a while, and we're down the road there. So let's catch up on the book offer. So you're offering people the book from the TV show, from the radio show. People go to the website or call in and ask for it. What's your book called again?
So we have several books. I try to, I have a book called The Money Map, which talks about our financial retirement, our planning process. And that's my big book. And I actually do not offer that through a direct response medium. They get that book when they come in after their first consultation. The books I use to hook people in for that first consultation to generate the interest in the business are much more the Dean Jackson oriented type books. There's one called Forced to Retire. And Forced to Retire talks about so many people up in the Northeast part of the country are getting these early retirement offers, or they're not offers. They're you're going to retire earlier than you thought. And so we just, you talk about having a constant flow of new prospects every year. Those are people that find out they're having to retire earlier than they thought. So I wrote a book called Forced to Retire, and we offer that. There's another one called the 2016 Guide to Maximizing Your Retirement Income, which of course, once I wrote a 2014 guide, then it's easy to do a 2015 guide, a 2016 guide, and guess what's coming out in about 3 months here, the 2017 guide.
I love it.
So let's see what else. So I have a few books like that when we can't make a direct call to action, like through the radio show, it's a direct call to action for the appointment. But for TV, I'm on the news desk. I'm part of the news, and we can't do a hard call to action there. So we offer a resource, and many times it's these little books, which are just wonderful. They're these easy books. It's your 90-minute book process. That before you had that 90-minute book process, I kind of talked with you and before you kind of packaged it, told me how to do it, and it works fantastically. And the key to those books, I think, is the title and getting super, super specific about what the book is about instead of being general in nature.
See, I think that we've hit on something, and you're executing this flawlessly in the fact that you've got the Money Map, which is your big book, that is your overriding approach to everything, right? It's the way that you approach the whole thing. And that book, is something that a lot of times people have the big book in them, as Dan Sullivan calls it, the book, capital B. And it takes a long time to write and to get a book like that together. It's worth doing because it's the culmination of all of your philosophies, all of your approach, everything like that. It really, just like you said, when you're meeting somebody and they come in and you sit down with them, it's a great way to kind of set the stage and to get everybody on the same page so they know the way you're thinking. But these little books that we have been talking about, these 90-minute books, have such an incredible focusing power that you can focus on specific segments of the market just to get the conversation started. And I really have seen nothing that works as well as a little, a really meaningfully titled book to compel people to raise their hand.
Well, correct. The big book, the big book basically represents 12 years and millions of dollars of missed opportunity. Which I could have done with a 90-minute book,
right?
and who knows? I mean, I might be nationwide now instead of the Northeast, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is that I think you hit on something there that people often kind of sit in the gestation of their big book, waiting years and years and years to get it out there. Yeah. So have you read Robert Cialdini's new book just came out called Pre-Suasion? And
no, I have not.
Oh, it's so fantastic. It totally puts now clinical and experimental support to all the things that we've been doing. And he basically, the book Influence was a tremendous wisdom book that talks about the 6 weapons of influence. Have you read that one? I'm sure you have.
Yes. Well, I've read bits and pieces of it because I have this gift of a short attention span. But I've read enough of that and implemented enough of that to know that book was a real game changer, especially understanding things like reciprocity and
yes,
giving
exactly.
giving value before you charge for it. You know, the whole marketing world, if we can go off on a little bit of a, you know, back in the day, maybe 12 and 15 years ago, and even being a strategic coach, it used to be don't give away your wisdom until you get paid. And I think in my world, if we insisted on that, there would be too many opportunities for us to lose somebody that's genuinely interested in talking to us, that if we just gave them a little bit of value, we get to meet them now. So the whole Cialdini book really changed my mind on that. And, of course, guys like you and the people we hang out with, where you can add value and you can add really life-changing content to somebody, and they don't leave saying, I've got everything I can from this person. It just makes you more attractive to the right people.
And that's, so now his latest, the years that he's been working on this, he's identified what he calls pre-suaders, which is things that amplify the effect of influence if you do them prior to the things that he talks about. So some of the things that are like on a meta level, setting up the frame that you're coming into. And I was thinking about like the book as it pre-frames everything. It sets up commitment and consistency, which is one of the principles that he talks about, where if you're, if you've asked for the 2016 Guide to Maximizing Your Retirement Income, and you then are presented an opportunity to meet with someone or come to another workshop or to carry on down that path, it's like you're much more likely to do that because you self-selected yourself as somebody who's interested in that, or you've self-identified yourself as somebody who's been forced to retire. So the fact that they're starting the conversation by raising their hand and associating themselves with a desire for what the title of your book is offering, they're already now pre-framed and ready to be influenced in our Profit Activator 3, our lead conversion kind of process. So that's why when you say, now that you've got your book, here are 3 ways we can help you, you're setting it up to now lead the rest of the way. And one of the other things that you've done with the book is you've framed yourself as an authority, which really has amazing impact on people's receptiveness to any instruction or guidance or offer that you make when you're viewed as an authority. And a book is just one of those, inherently having a book is an indicator of being an authority. People immediately associate you as being an authority with that.
Yeah. And Cialdini talks about that, of course, in his first book a lot, about positioning yourself as an authority and exclusivity and just all that great stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I did not know he came out with another book.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. So when you look at the Profit Activator 3, your conversion process here, what kind of things are you doing in there now, and how's that kind of going? How do you measure the effectiveness of the long-term follow-up with the people who ask for the book? How are you handling that right now?
Well, so again, that kind of depends on which channel they come in through asking for the book. So when they ask for the book, let's just say they ask for the book on TV. Let's pretend they, because we do some Facebook ads, we do some other targeted ads where we can really target a certain company when we know there's layoffs going on and so on. But let's say they ask for the book on TV where it's really a soft sell. What's happening is after they get the book, we've captured their email address. And by the way, we're sending a physical book. We're not sending an ebook. I believe there's value in sending a physical book. So we've captured their email address, and we've captured, obviously, their address and so on. Yeah. Sometimes we have the phone number, and sometimes we don't. Many times we don't, but we're sending out your letter that you helped me format, Dean, that has the 3 ways you can help you. So that's the key, is at the bottom, because especially if they've come from TV, we don't go hard sell, and we don't right away start calling them.
Not at all.
Right? It's not the highly trained people, because that'll shut that down real quick. So we send them out a real nice letter.
Trained salespeople are standing by.
And a highly trained salesperson will pick up the phone and not let you go.
That's right.
So especially during election season, people don't really want to talk to anybody because of the phone calls everybody's getting. But so we send out a very nice letter, and it basically says thank you for asking for the book. I don't know specifically what it says, but the key is the PS. And the PS says there are 3 ways we can help you right now. And one is they can ask for another report of some sort, and I'm not sure specifically what it is right now. The next one is they can attend a seminar, and the next one is that they can come in for a no obligation visit to get their money map retirement review. And then we say a little bit about what that is, but that's the name of our process that people come into and get if they come in for a first appointment. And so we're generating all these leads, and enough people call where we generate quite a few appointments. And those that don't, we'll send them their follow-up. If we have their email address, we'll do the email mastery thing that you teach, which is, we'll send out just a little email a few weeks later saying, hey, you got my book a few weeks back. By the way, are you working or are you retired? That's our question. And then they'll,
just
of course,
engage
look at it
in
and
a
respond,
dialogue.
and then we're in an email dialogue. And I pass that off, of course, to one of the other advisors that sort of walks them through a templated email dialogue, again, trying to see if they have any interest in talking. And if we can engage them in a conversation, then we slowly try to get them offline. Our sale takes place. Our during unit is a face-to-face. Almost everything about our process culminates in that being face-to-face in the financial services business.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. And then what happens when ongoing? What's your flagship vehicle for bonding with all of the people who've asked for the book and they've got the letter, and they haven't maybe taken us up on the offer right away? What's the ongoing thing that you're doing right now?
There's a weekly economic update.
Okay, yeah.
That I do, which is sort of a templated update on the financial markets and what's going on in the economy, and just basically, it's not real technical in nature. It's not like a stock market newsletter. It's really just a real basic thing on what's, right now I would be talking about, how the election might affect your portfolio, or, based on what's happening. So it's just a nice, simple weekly economic thing where they're just getting touched. And every once in a while, probably every other time they get one of those, there'll be an offer in there to maybe get another resource or a white paper or giveaway or something like that. So it's just constant, real soft engagement where people raise their hand when they're ready. And after a while, people will go away forever and, get taken off the list. But enough people are raising their hand where we constantly fill the calendars back on.
Have you incorporated a super signature in that email yet? And what I mean by that is that in every, it's coming back to me now because I remember when Lori came to Celebration, we talked about that, your flagship, that weekly email that goes out, is incorporating into that a super signature that has your offers, like your cookies, each time it goes out. Like say, almost like at the end of every one of those, saying, whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways we can help you.
She may have done that, and I wouldn't even be aware if she did that.
Okay. So I was going to say that sort of just continually presencing the what to do next, And sometimes those are the kind of magic words, is that if you just let people know, that's kind of secretly what they're looking for, is here's what to do next. And even if you use those words, here's what to do next.
Well, that's the mistake we made so many years in this business, is we just figured people would know what they're supposed to do next. And they don't know. They don't know. And, Frank Kern talks about that, that's where so many marketing campaigns fall short. We tell them what we have, we tell them how it's going to help them, and we forget to tell them what to do.
Right.
And so we've really learned that over the last few years, which is I can tell you this, our TV, because it's such a soft offer, would not be profitable if we had not learned to tell people what to do next.
Yeah,
we would
exactly.
We're getting a profitable return on that, where when we started that, the real intent was just to build credibility for our other marketing channels. But if we hadn't learned that super important lesson, which I will still forget to this day from time to time, of telling people just in simple terms, here's what to do. You'll pick up the phone or send us an email asking for your book. People won't figure it out. And then we think, we're failures or people are idiots. Well, they're not idiots. We forgot to tell them what to do.
Right. That's exactly right. You got to be explicit. And so that, a lot of times people are sort of hesitant to, they don't want to be pushy, or they don't want to seem aggressive or trying to, convince people to do something. And I'm all for that. I don't want to do that either. The way that we can do it is, in every email, having the end of the email always contain, here's what to do next, or whenever you're ready, here's 3 ways we can help you. Or if you're sending out that one email to everybody, like, so you've got people who get into that group, your Profit Activator 3 pool of prospects, right? Unconverted prospects, all the people that have responded to your TV offer, or come to one of your seminars, or responded for anything. Whatever you get those email addresses, that's what you've got, and that's who's getting this email every week. So it might be a nice thing at the bottom of the emails to include your book offers, like the little books that you have. Because somebody who maybe called in on the 2016 Guide to Maximizing Your Retirement, they might not know that you have the Forced to Retire book, or the Social Security book, or the Annuities Guide, or whatever, all the sort of hot button things that people have, and if you had those available as a ride along in every email that you're sending out, you'd be amazed how many people would click on those, So I'll model that with the More Cheese, Less Whiskers announcement emails. They're always saying, whenever you're ready, here's some ways we can help you, and I mentioned you can go to Breakthrough DNA and download the Breakthrough DNA book and watch the video to get a real good understanding of the 8 profit activators. You can come to a Breakthrough Blueprint in celebration. I've got 2 coming up this fall, so I'm kind of like laying it out. I've got one in October, one in December. You can we can help you with a 90-minute book. Get your book out there. So all of the things that we're saying are all present in every email, and they're kind of below the PS, so you get the main essence of your message, which is to announce your weekly summary, whatever your market commentary that you have. And that format is great, because you get to kind of make it seem like a real person is doing it, and then at the end have all of these resources. I think it would make a difference in the number of people who kind of take the next step.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good evil scheme for you to measure that. Now here's something you'll love this because I've just been formulating this. Is I've always been, I'm big on metrics, and I always look at how can we monitor things. Like in our after unit, we measure the return on relationship, right? How much business
Correct.
are you getting relative to the number of clients that you have? And that's a measurable, knowable number that we can improve year after year. The number that in the before unit, I've been kind of thinking about how to really get the best way to think about that and to allow for the compounding effect of this. And there's been a few different things that have kind of really pushed me over the edge on this. Like it seems like we look at measuring the before unit in terms of, well, on a calendar basis, we spent this much on the ads and we generated this much business. So we talk about a multiplier, right? We got a 4-to-1 or a 3-to-1 on our spend there, which accounts for it, but it does it in sort of a snapshot kind of way, and it never really accounts for the value of the difference in the leads that you generated in January versus the leads that you generated in December, right? It's putting equal weight on the spend. And to me, that kind of seems like an expense model of measuring the return on marketing that way. And so what I've really started playing with and thinking about is turning that spend, thinking about it as a capital investment and looking at the return on your ongoing capital asset. So what I mean by that is that you've been running the TV ads and you've been doing, or the TV show and the radio show and spending money on direct mail and all the things that you've done. And you've generated an asset from that, right? Which is the name and email and the address of somebody who raised their hand to identify themselves. And if we think about each one of those as an asset and the collective of them as an asset portfolio, that is like Warren Buffett kind of talks about the snowball, like your snowball is bigger and bigger each year because you're generating and adding to it new leads new people that have identified themselves, but not yet become clients. And the value of that, some of those people gestate for 30 days, and some of those people gestate for 30 months. And, it's different. They would not show up in any sort of regular measurement of how your advertising is working, So it's
you're saying if you're not measuring that, if you're not careful, they don't, right. If you're not careful, we've learned to be very careful about that measurement because you can assume you've got all kinds of, like with the amount of market, our marketing budget this year will be $1.5 million, which is small compared to some people listening to this podcast. But in my business, for an independent financial services firm, that's a pretty big marketing budget. In fact, it'll probably be $1.8 million. And so we have to be very, very careful. The stakes are much higher now, with my overhead and all the employees. So we've learned to be very careful. Like we used to assume, the primitive mistake that a lot of people in my business make is you say, I spent, so here we are, we're having this conversation in September. You look at July and you'll say, well, I spent $10,000 in July and I had $30,000 in revenues in July. Therefore, my my profit on everything put together is 3-to-1. Well, no,
Right.
it's not, because the 30,000 didn't come from July's spend. It came from March's spend. Now we're so sophisticated, we don't even see it as coming from March's spend. We know that some of it came from the year before. So there's a bell
maybe
curve.
Even the year before that.
And then you right, exactly. And you start to track these things. And the more specific, I was just having a conversation with somebody about data, and I get really excited about it because there's magic in the data. The more you can analyze the data. And some of us as entrepreneurs, we are not the people that should be analyzing their own data. That somebody else, there are people that are gifted at finding patterns in data that can mean the difference between you exploding and being a huge business and you just struggling along to maybe have a great lifestyle, but never really coming over that hump to that full potential you could have, because there's so much magic in the data. The data talks to you in patterns and things like that when you really start looking at all these things. And sometimes we're too close to the action running our businesses to step back and see it.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we've been doing to measure this now is to measure the cumulative ROI on it. Starting with like tracking the spend and tracking the revenue on a cumulative basis. So it can be 3 or 4 or 5 years out to show how that all comes, because it's been really fascinating to observe since I really started looking at it in that long-term way. I had episode 4 or 5 with Kenny McCarthy. He's a realtor in Cape Ann, just north of Boston, and he's been doing our Getting Listings program for the waterfront homes in Cape Ann. There's 1,000 homes there, and so he's been mailing every month the Getting Listings postcards offering the free September 2016 report on Cape Ann waterfront house prices. And then each month, he mails them the How to Sell Your House for Top Dollar Fast book along with the report on what's been going on the waterfront homes for the last year. And then each month, he emails them a newsletter called Get Top Dollar and a cover letter and updates of all the new sales that have happened on the waterfront in the last month, including some information. We have a section called Helping People on the Move, which kind of shows all the different kinds of people that Kenny's working with. So that's the Profit Activator 3 mechanism. No phone calls, never calls anybody, just serving, sending that out to them. And in one 90-day period this spring leading up to the summer here, he had 3 people call him who've been getting that newsletter for 3 years, who were now ready to sell their house. He sent me a voicemail of one of them. This lady had been getting it. She said she had a bit of an accent. She says, "I get your paperwork every month," meaning the newsletter, and you talk about this silent market. I have some questions about that. Can you give me a call? And left her number. And he goes in conversation with her. She's got a $4.2 million house that she's selling, and then gets the same types of calls. One guy who'd been getting for just under 3 years is ready to sell his house. Kenny's the guy. He's been getting their postcards and newsletters. We're ready to sell. Come on out. That's a $2.8 million house and another $1.2 million house. So all of that, on the postcards that he sent 3 years ago. And so that, the spend, it's almost like the compound interest tables, all the benefit of a compound interest table is in the end. That's where it gets like exponential. exponential, you know?
Right,
So
and we can get very impatient as entrepreneurs, and quit. You know, there's a saying in other circles: "Don't quit before the miracle happens." And you just,
right.
You know, I look back at my career and think about, you know, all the revenue that's been left on the table because I decided something. I decided something wasn't working. You know, and if I just would have hung in there for sometimes another month, you know, it would have turned the corner. And I'm on to the next thing, building a whole new program, right? Building a whole new. Now we're off to something that now it's going to take, you know, sometimes 90 days to 6 months to even figure out if it's going to work or not. When if I would have just been smarter about the last thing, it's so true. And now what we do is now we can measure. You know, I can go back and say, well, let's look at all the prospects, the little batch of prospects that came in February of 2015. And let's just sort of look at what happened to all those people. And it's fascinating to look at that because you'll find out that you think, right, as a salesperson, you might think that, you know, everything happened after 4 months and it was, you know, that's when you got most of the juice out of it. And you'll see all of a sudden that in the 15th month, all of a sudden just a lot of things happen. And then you look at the other batches of people and say, well, is that a pattern? And it's amazing. And many times it's very, very inexpensive to keep touching those people, especially if we're doing email type of marketing. Although I'm a big fan of, you know, you do email for a while, but every once in a while you drop that direct mail piece just because nobody else is doing it.
And I think that rhythm, like you've probably got a great case to test a quarterly journal type of mailing that you could do to some of these prospects as a test. You know, mailing, like you do every week, every week's going out the email.
The weekly economic update, that's a great idea. We haven't done that. We haven't done that at all to our we could easily do that. Once a quarter, just send out something that's a nice 2-page little piece.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is now you've got the opportunity because your asset, your Profit Activator 3 asset is you know, it's long term now. How many people do you have in that that get those weekly emails right now?
I would have to ask Lori, but if it's probably 8,000 or 9,000.
Yeah, perfect. So you look at that, and you've got that many people right now that you know, at that level.
That would include client. That would include clients, Dean. So
we want to separate those.
Our 2,300 households that we serve are also in that group.
Okay, so let's call it then 6,000.
6,000 that are not clients yet. Okay, fair enough.
6,000 that are not clients, and that, you know, when we look at that, that's your asset under management right now, right? You in your before unit. So somebody who's Lori or the person in charge of that asset. It's almost like you talk about data and you talk about those, you know, talk about knowing the numbers and mining the data and managing the relationship with those. You know, if you take that financial approach, you know, it's almost like you've got an asset that you could apply your kind of analysis and yield analysis to really look at what can we do. And the great thing is that you can actually affect the return on that. Like right now, these numbers are there. Whether that's the great thing about data is that it's all there, but there's you know, a real skill set and wisdom in turning that data into information. And the information is what is kind of where you can be guided, you know. So if we knew if we had perfect knowledge, like our friend Peter Diamandis calls it, perfect knowledge of all of the data, that we would be able to see how much the cumulative ROI on all of these 6,000 prospects, or a good number of those 2,300 have graduated into that 2,300 from the through that process.
Correct.
And so, looking at that, setting up a metric or a set of metrics that is actionable, that you can measure and hold someone accountable for. Like if you say, like, you almost treat it like this person is in this role, this person owns this metric and is fully tasked with what can we do to improve this metric, to build more relationships, right? The whole thing about Profit Activator 3, that asset that you have, is to deploy offers in Profit Activator 4 that move people into your during you.
Right, and the key there is having somebody that's accountable for it, which
right.
Remind me, we'll come back to it, but I want to tell you a story about that in our during unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead. Let's carry on with that now.
For a long time, because I am so good in my company, and we've gotten so good at filling the funnel in 1, 2, and 3, and feeding these financial advisors these appointments where they're just set up to do these appointments. The idea of generating consistent introductions, referrals, we call them introductions, in the during unit for a client that's been there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, they're not motivated, they're not incentivized to do it because it's not a quick payoff, right? That the quick payoff is I sit with somebody today, and out of every 4 people I sit with today, one of those people or 2 of those people is going to become a client in a week or 2. That's a quick rush for somebody that's in the mode of a hunter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the mode of sitting with somebody that's been a client for 4 years and getting a referral or an introduction and then cultivating that referral or introduction and so on, well, it's a lot easier for those guys, which are sales guys at heart, to just wait for me to feed their calendar for the next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we said, well, let's make somebody. So we've got this during unit, this asset that's all these clients, most of them happy. And so I just took a person that's on Lori's team. She has 5 people on our team, marketing team, and said, we're going to have her own this program. This is going to be a program. We're going to incentivize her for it. She's going to track her own data, and she's going to talk to the advisors about it, and we're going to have a little contest. And we're going to set up the same competition that the sales guys love to have with each other. Any sales guy loves, he's not a true sales guy, I don't think, if he doesn't like to compete with other sales guys.
First prize is a Cadillac. Second prize is a set of steak.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah.
Third
it's not
prize
quite like
fired.
that. We have to be careful here in the financial services business about that kind of stuff. But they love to compete. They just love to compete.
Yeah.
They like to know at the end of the week,
right,
they did better than the guy in the desk next to them. So we said, okay, well, let's build that, but let's have somebody else responsible for that. And so we've got Cindy, who was responsible for helping with my help and Lori's input, building that program out, and it's working wonderfully. And now all of a sudden we've built this culture of that, but we've made it easier for the financial advisors to because they don't want to follow up. They don't want to follow up. I mean, yeah, I'm a sales guy, okay?
Right.
If you tell me that you're going to give me 5 appointments tomorrow, or call the 5 people you saw last week to see how they're doing, I'm going to just see the 5 guys tomorrow and lie to you and tell you that I called the 5 people from yesterday, right, or last week, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to treat them like big babies and take it off their plate. And part of that, I say that facetiously, but part of it is just like, any superstar athlete, a good coach knows you keep them doing what they're great at doing and take the things they're good at, and maybe they shouldn't be doing the things they're good at. They should only be doing things they're great at. So we took that entire process, and it's real fresh and it's real new, but it's working amazingly well. I mean, we're getting now sometimes 1 or 2 new clients a week through that process, where before it was, maybe 1 or 2 a month.
Yeah.
And we haven't even started refining it yet. So it's very, very exciting. I don't remember why I started talking about it, but it's very, very exciting when you take something like that where I know why, because we're talking about this asset. So we have this asset that's our clients that we can mine for these introductions. But
yeah, I mean, there you go.
You have to create a process that runs by itself, because if you have to, if you're a fast-running sales guy or entrepreneur and you have to go into the office and start a process every day left to your own devices, if you're like me, you're not going to do that. It's got to be automatic. It's got to be something where I just show up and I perform. Like Dan Sullivan says, you just show up and perform because everything is there set up for you.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, so we've been talking about the assets that you have, that Profit Activator 3 is the pool of assets that are of prospects that have not yet turned into clients. And then in your after unit, that 2,300 or 2,600, did you say?
2,300.
You got 2,300 families under management right now. And
correct.
that process, that is your after unit. And when you look at that, like the metric that we look for is your return on relationship. And so if that 2,300 families, there's 2 ways that can grow. Number one, they can add more assets or bring. Sometimes people start out with maybe a portion of their assets with you, and then they can bring the rest of them, kind of thing, after you've proven
correct.
yourself. Or they can refer their friends and family or people they know. And that's
correct.
That's one thing that you're kind of describing there that you can focus on. And so we count that number. That's your Profit Activator 8, orchestrating referrals. So we measure the return on relationship as the number of new clients that were introduced by people in your after unit year over year. So what we look for is and each business, you have to set a metric for yourself. But when we look on the real estate side, where real estate agents have they may know 150 people, as the people who know them, like them, and trust them, and that we're looking to manage that relationship portfolio for a 20% annual yield, meaning that if you've got 150 people, we should be able to generate 30 transactions from that group of people. And so we see that happening again and again. Now, when you look at as a firm, you've got a lot more families under management than like an individual advisor would, because an individual advisor may have 150 people, more like
right. An individual advisor, if you can officially manage 200 relationships, that's pretty hard to do as an individual advisor.
Yeah, right. So when you look at your 2,300 families there, do you measure a return on relationship that formally, like to say?
We do. We measure it 2 ways.
Okay.
We measure it on how many introductions we get, how many of those introductions convert. So that's one way. The other way is we measure how much new money those people are bringing to us, which because the larger. Financially, the larger the client. Like for instance, if you have a household that has $400,000 total in savings that they're able to invest, we may get that right away on the first commitment they make to us. But if you have a household that has $2 million to invest, it's rare that you get that whole thing on the first commitment. So we're constantly measuring, that person might commit to you a third of their assets and then see how the relationship goes. And then after 6 months to a year, then you get another piece. And then maybe after 2 years, you have it all if you do a good job. So we're also constantly measuring how much do those people give us in additional funds, which, we need to be a little more sophisticated in that, because there are some people that just don't have the ability to give us more, and we don't really separate that out right now. But we absolutely measure in 2 or 3 different ways the yield on our existing relationships in that during unit.
Mm-hmm. Or then your after unit, because the during unit
in my
is
after unit.
Portion.
I'm sorry, my after unit. My after unit.
The
I keep
during
saying
unit
during.
is the
my after unit.
the serving the new the people, right? Doing what you do. So one of the things that do you know any of those numbers in terms of the referrals?
No, I know the referral number. I'm embarrassed to tell you it's way too low. It's
okay.
It's about 4%.
Okay.
We get introduced to about 120. We get introduced to about 100 to 120. Last year we were introduced to about 100 to 120 new households.
Okay. And those were
it should be much higher than that.
Those were the ones that turned into clients, or that those were the introductions?
About half of those turn into clients. And it's interesting there also, Dean, is we take the other thing that's interesting is an interesting dynamic in my business is that there are our average revenue per client from the referral channel is the lowest of all our other channels. And here's why. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody refers me their friend or their family member, mm-hmm. and they're maybe not somebody that we would normally take on as a client because they don't quite have the assets, we're still going to take them on, which is kind of an interesting, but that's just a sidebar. But I think, you've always given me this 20% target. So when I look at the fact that, 20% of 2,300 is 460, right? So that's kind of the thing that's the number we're kicking around the office is how do we generate 460 introductions from these people?
Well, you want me to help you hatch an evil scheme for that?
Let's do it. We got a little time here, right? We got 5 more minutes or something. Let's come up with some schemes. We're working on them right now.
I mean, this is very interesting because I was in London in June, and it's the 5th Breakthrough Blueprint I did in London, and I have this financial advisor there who's come to all but one of the Breakthrough Blueprints there. And each year he takes like one major idea and focuses on executing that. And last year, the idea was focusing on this return on relationship. And so he added in the world's most interesting postcard to his group. Now he's more like a traditional financial advisor. I think he had 140 people that he works with. Single, not a big firm, a single financial manager working with regular people, not high net worth people. And he
and that's how we are too. We like to say we're Walmart. We're working with regular families.
Perfect. There you go. And so he added in the world's most interesting postcard, sent that out each month to the 140. And then when we got back together in June, did the tallying and found that turned into 80,000 pounds extra business. His after you had increased by that much year over year. And part of that is that it's so focused on actually orchestrating the referrals, like the mechanics of how they actually happen. I always say like that referrals, and you think about your 2,300 people here, that every one of them are in conversation all the time. And that's where referrals happen. Referrals always happen as a result of conversation. So in those conversations, in order for a referral to take place, three things have to happen. They have to notice that the conversation is about money. They have to think about you, and then they have to introduce you to those people, right? Connect you. And so the thing that we've been doing is using a formula that is kind of the power of suggestion in a lot of ways, right? Like we just want people to be aware that these conversations are going on, because if we can get the first two things firing, if we can get them to notice that the conversation's about money and to think about you and that trigger calling you, that's where the magic happens, right? Because
this is great, because we're actually using the postcard idea, but we've probably drifted away from this fundamental a little bit because we've been doing it now for 2 years. That's probably where 80% of those leads that we're getting are probably coming from our postcard, but I can almost guarantee what we're talking about right now, we've drifted away from this fundamental into other things, and the postcards become maybe a little cutesy or so on.
So it's just sending a postcard. And there's the thing. So now having
it's saying, you probably know somebody that needs our help, and it'll have a little comic on it. But I bet it's not targeted enough. I bet it's not specific enough.
Well, it's the thing that you want to do. It's not about getting them to refer people. It's about getting them to look like a hero, right? The reason that people refer anything is because it makes them look and feel good.
That's
right. Everybody
right? Yep.
wants to be an insider, right? Everybody wants to bring things of value to people. So when we presence it in a way that is going to let them be a hero, so if you say, like, what just happened in Connecticut, GE moving
GE moved to Boston, right.
There you go. So a lot of people were forced to retire, right?
Right.
So that is
800 highly paid jobs in an area where we just opened up a new office.
Do you think that there is conversation going on about that? Absolutely.
Course.
So if we were looking at that, paying attention to what's going on in the news, what might people be talking about right now? So a postcard, on the back of the postcard, the message would be, hey, just a quick note in case you hear someone talking about forced retirement or being forced to retire early or debating whether they should retire or move. You probably heard GE has been closed the office there. If you hear someone talking about that, give me a call or text me, and I'll get you a copy of my Forced to Retire book to give them. And that is, now you see what's happening there is you're not asking or expecting your clients to turn into salespeople for you. You're turning into somebody who's giving them an opportunity to be the bearer of a gift.
Right. They're turning into, exactly. Excellent.
Right. So now they've had that conversation. Maybe the wives were talking. One wife is a family that's under management with you, and she's talking to her good friend, and they're concerned because Bob's trying to figure out whether he should, whether they should move or what's he going to do. He's 60 right now, and it's, do we want to uproot and move everything or whatever? That's a conversation that's likely going on, right? And
right, exactly.
Now that your client, Betty, gets this message from you, she remembers that you said that, and you've got this book, Forced to Retire, and she can text you or email you or call you get a copy of that book to give to her friend. That's what we're facilitating there. We're not saying tell them to become our client. We're baby stepping it.
Or
right?
worse yet, give us their name so that we can sick our highly trained salespeople on your friend.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's why having them call you, or having the offer, the instruction be, you call me or email me or text me, and I'll give you a copy of the book to give to them. Now, again, what's going to happen is as soon as they email you, that has now done its job. Right now, the conversation can be, well, tell me about your friend. Would you like us to, do you have their address? We can send the book, and I'll actually send something else along with it. Or would you like me to send the book to you to send to them? I mean, you know Evelyn best. How do you think we could get connected so that we could help them?
I love
it. Now you're in that conversation, and you're at least aware that the conversation has happened. Because that conversation I would find the odds inconceivable that among the 2,300 families that you have, especially where you are, that some of those people are not in that exact conversation.
100 of them, 50 of them.
Now,
absolutely. If it's not GE, it's Aetna or Cigna or MetLife or all the other companies that are constantly early retiring people in Connecticut and moving to South Carolina or Tennessee. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why in some ways, Connecticut's a tough state to live in. I hope we're going to block this for anybody that lives in Connecticut. Can you block the podcast for any of my competition in Connecticut? So Connecticut's a tough state to live in, but in my business, it's a wonderful state to be in because it's like your Stop Your Divorce book. There's always a new batch of people that are in this traumatic transition, many times having to make the biggest financial decision of their lives, and they want help. And all we've got to do is be the people that are there at the time when they need our help.
Yeah.
And do a good job, and do a good job and keep our promises and do the right thing by the client.
That's a big thing. Like if I were really gonna advise you on the after unit, maximizing your return there. I mean, that's really somebody whose full responsibility to seek out, orchestrate this whole thing. I mean, there's so much room there to go from 4% to 20%. I mean, it would be a huge difference to go from 4% to 8%.
Oh, yeah. Well, 4% is 300,000 or 400,000 in revenues. I'll tell you that. So figure out. I mean, that's measure.
There you go. It's like $100,000.
That's 20% of our market. That's 20% of our marketing budget. That's 6 or 8 new employees. I mean, that's a huge boost. And the irony is that the cost of this is so low. The hard cost is so low.
Exactly it. That's the thing.
But here's the thing, and I want everybody on the podcast to hear this. Here's the thing. So it's a little harder to figure out. It's a little more effort. It's a little harder to do this than throw another dollar at a direct mail piece. And so most guys in my business just throw another dollar at a direct mail piece instead of take a little more time to figure it out when I could be getting a 20-to-1 return or a 30-to-1 return on those dollars, where I'm excited about a 5 or 6-to-1 return on a direct mail piece.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Good stuff, Dean.
I think that's the big. I think we've uncovered the opportunity for you. 2 of them. You got a big
excited.
Asset in Profit Activator 3, a big asset in Profit Activator 8. All very exciting. Listen, are you going to be in Toronto at our strategic coach session next week?
I am, yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, I will see you then, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But I think I think we've uncovered it for you here.
All right. Thanks buddy. I really appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Okay, there we go. What an amazing episode. I hope you took lots of notes there. There really is a lot of opportunity just in that last 60 minutes. So if you have any questions about the strategies that Dean and Joel talked about, then just shoot us an email at podcast@90minutebooks.com and we'll be happy to answer them. If you're ready to get started collecting leads yourself with your book, then head over to 90minutebooks.com and click the Get Started button and we'll be here ready to help you. Okay, thanks guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.